Mark, night game last night. I think you had your banquet today. What's kind of the schedule to try and get ready for Arizona when they had a head start?
It's kind of, we're making the best of the situation, and our guys have managed all these change-ups, whether it's a bye week here and a Thursday game here, Friday game we had earlier in the season. We've managed all those things really well, and had a neat banquet, great seeing a bunch of families and friends of the outgoing guys. And it was neat to be a part of a bunch of hard goodbyes here in a few weeks that we'll have to go through. But most importantly, after that kind of phase, and it was time to go to work, our guys went back to work and pointed 100% toward Arizona.
Did you just watch film today, or did
you do We did kind of a modified Monday, I would say, in a lot of ways, of how we met, much more Arizona-centric than, correction and review from Oregon State. We still did some of that from things that we didn't do well, and again, just kind of redirected.
Andrew?
How do you taper this time of year with guys banged up? You said before you've tried to alter it a little bit in the offseason, find a better plan. How do you have gone about it this fall to make sure you guys, as injured as you are still fresh?
Yeah, that's always the thing you're kind of messing with is how much Monday, how much Tuesday, how much Wednesday. We kind of shut things down on Thursday, but just back and forth kind of with the training staff and we call it our performance team between our strength and conditioning coaches and our sports medicine staff, just trying to know when to really push them and when to shut it down, and get more of a walkthrough mode. And so that's kind of an ongoing deal this time of year. And again, I think that's been the neat thing to see our guys have bought in 100%. And that's usually easy when it's you're kind of tapering back on the contact for some of your big guys, but also that's a time where it kind of becomes a little bit too frivolous at times. And our guys have been really mature about their approach. And so that's been good.
Over here to your right.
Sticking with the theme of injuries, what goes through your head when you see Marcus hurdle that guy in the first quarter?
Among other things, man, he's a really good athlete. But yeah, there are a couple things going through your mind. But like we've talked about before, that's just something that you can never, you can't rein that in. I mean, the only way you can do that is with the play call, and even then, if you call a drop back pass and tell him to plant his right foot and throw it on rhythm, and he pulls it down and scrambles, and that's going to happen, And so the guy's a dynamic player, and we certainly don't want to hold him back.
Coach, we've talked already this season with Stanford about that sort of revenge factor. They've beaten us before. Byron mentioned it last night. With Arizona, though, they beat this team this year, as opposed to last year, but as opposed to Stanford beating them the 2 years before. Is that a different dynamic to manage than Stanford, or is that pretty much the same message?
I don't know. We won't use that other than kind of what you just said of just the I think our guys maybe transitioned from game to game, not only because it was a Friday night game, not only it's the conference championship, but playing a team that beat you earlier in the season. I think that maybe helped transition that gray area between previous opponent and next opponent a little bit faster. And if that channels in, like I've said many times, whatever you can use to channel for your preparation, we'll take it.
Going to the back to Mike Scow.
Mark, last night, Byron and Ifo both said they're excited. They're looking forward to a rematch with Zona. Byron said he hoped it was going to be Zona later on in the season. Do you like when players get excited for rematches in these kinds of situations? And have you, player or coach, ever been in this situation before?
I would have to think about that last part for a while, and probably in the interest of time, it would be better to move on to the other part. Sorry. But again, anything that you use to fuel your chamber, to stoke your fire, to prepare, great. You can't go out there and win the game on one play because you're trying to, seek revenge or anything like that. And our guys know that. Our guys have bought in to our process fully. And like I said, they those guys that you just mentioned had a great day today in what we asked them to do. And we expect the same tomorrow.
Going to the phone line. Any questions from anyone still with us?
Yeah, Mark, if I could, back to yesterday's game, Sean Manning's such a big arm, but really never beat the Ducks with anything long, and I know Eric Gargan was honored today. Could you talk a little bit about him and just the play that you received from the secondary in the Civil War?
Yeah, I thought those guys did a great job at, one of our biggest things going into that game was just eliminating the vertical penetration of their receivers, and whether you're an underneath cover guy or a corner trying to help the guy, have to redirect it to the safety. We did a really good job of that. We kept expecting them to launch a few more balls to those big dudes, and for whatever reason they didn't. Part of that absolutely was our coverage. Part of that was our pass rush. On that note, Ifo was our defensive player of the game. The entire offensive line, the entire scout offensive line were the scouts of the week defensively. On offense, kind of a bunch of guys that got votes from the offensive staff. Obviously, Marcus had a great game. Charles, Byron Marshall, Darren Carrington all did some great things, but Devin Allen was the recipient of their player of the week. Had three big blocks, 3 spring blocks on touchdown plays, which were huge, and had a couple catches. Grant Thompson was the offensive scout of the week. And then special teams wise, Tyson Coleman playing on punt return, kickoff return, and punt in different spots on each one of those units was our special teams player of the game. And then Jake McCreath was our scout team special teams player of the week.
One of the things that Gary referred to in terms of sent out a release today regarding the awards banquet reception earlier today in terms of season honorees. So if anyone did not get that, talk to me afterwards. Any other questions for now on the phone? Okay, Austin Meek.
Mark, can you describe what Arizona does defensively, just alignment-wise, scheme-wise? Is it different or unique from what you see from other Pac-12 schools?
How much the percentages at which they line up in one front is skewed, but almost everybody in the conference, I'm trying to make sure I'm not lying here, almost everybody in the conference does some form of what they do in terms of being they're a 3-down, 3 linebacker based personnel group, but there's teams that morph in and out of that. A 3-3-5 nickel group, a 3-4 by formation kind of becomes a stack look by the linebackers, but that's their base defense, and they line up in that the majority of the time. And so as far as the percentages go, they're different. The identification that has to take place is very similar to a lot of other teams.
Andrew, did you have a question?
Within that, Scooby Wright, kind of unheralded guy, seems like a guy you would recruit, whereas comes out of nowhere, and now he's like 140 tackles. What's your impression of him, and what does he do so well? I mean, obviously he forced a fumble on Marcus in October. What's your impression of him?
That guy's a stud. He's one of my favorite guys to watch in our conference. Unfortunately, when he's playing against us, or we're looking forward to playing against him, we have to handle the business end of him. But just a great football player. I mean, he lines up at middle linebacker a lot, gets protected by that nose guard. They do a great job of moving the front and him behind it. Then he'll line up at defensive end and play great. He'll rush off the edge. He'll rush up the middle. He's got a great feel for how somebody's trying to block him, or schematically how you're trying to block him, and either overpowering or his athleticism is good enough to counter on stuff. But he's a great player. Great player.
Ryan?
Rich Rodriguez said or pretended that he had a quarterback battle all through camp, and then Andrew Solomon breaks onto the scene. I mean, does he remind you of anyone as a freshman?
I don't know if I've seen, other than Marcus, a guy as a freshman do the things that he's done. He is just another really polished guy, great competitors, really smart, especially for a guy of his experience level at the collegiate level. Obviously had a great high school career. A ton of people, including us, tried to recruit him, and just a kind of a player beyond his years type of guy, really, really veteran. He does a lot of veteran stuff that you don't anticipate from a freshman. If he's under duress, if you change up coverage, he just makes great decisions.
Back over here to the right.
Earlier, it looked like Arizona ran a lot of triple option against you guys where Anu would look like he was about to tuck and run and then would drop off a little 15-yard pass. How hard is that to defend, and how do you guys try to prepare for an offense like that?
Well, we run an offense like that, and so we think it's pretty good. And that is the key. You know, when you can run the ball and just get somebody on an edge, somebody in space, somebody in an arm tackle position, and his name's Nick Wilson. Bad things are going to happen if you tackle him or totally fit up on that, and then there's counter punches off of it, and so they do. Rich does a great job coaching them, and they do a great job executing it. But yeah, that is absolutely the name of the game is truly stopping one part of that, and then being sound enough to take care of the rest of it.
Will?
Sort of on a tangent to that, I know Coach Pelham talked about it last night. Your thoughts on scouting your guys' game against Arizona back in October, along with their whole season. How do you weight that?
That's, again, part of the name of the game. It's kind of they know that we know that they know that we know, and so let's do the opposite, kind of a deal. But there's a lot of stuff kind of, again, going back to defending this type of offense. There's certain things that whether it's Coach Castile has done throughout his career or we've done throughout our history that are fundamental against scheme A. And so there's certain things that you're not going to change. You're not going to change something you believe a ton in for some opponent. But they've done a great job. Our guys are playing harder. We're playing smarter. And now, again, it's just a different challenge week to week.
Taylor?
Given the similarities with system in the offense, and that Anu has said how much he has tried to model his game after Marcus, how much he admires him. Would you ever include Marcus in some of the prep work in trying to stop Anu?
In terms of what?
Just, in terms of like watching
tackling dummy.
Yeah, well,
no.
Just in terms of watching film or tendencies, etc. Just asking Marcus what he feels Anu's tendencies are, etc.
Not necessarily. I see what you're getting at. I think, again, it's probably more of a schematic thing than anything. How they run the ball. We have similarities. How they throw on the perimeter. We have similarities, and so there's some carryover that way. But yeah, he's done a great job of executing their system, and so in that way there's some correlation to that. But we do some stuff in our practice that's good on good all the time, and we'll continue to do that this week because the speed of the game, the getting to those assignments, you have to do it really quickly or else it's a bad situation.
Mike?
Mark, their receivers, they're deep. They played really well against you guys back in October, and it seems like they've improved. They've continued to play well in space, block downfield, and make catches all over the field and in big situations. How have you seen them improve, or how are they different from last month?
Yeah, they're not that different. That's maybe the hard part is they're probably better, but they're it's not like some guy's game has fallen off or somebody's unhappy with how many balls they've gotten. I think another part of this style of offense is you have to have a lot of skill guys and you have to have a lot of unselfish skill guys, and that's hard. We have a great chemistry going in terms of how our guys are operating. They look to be similar. I don't know the inside of their program at all, but they have a bunch of big, fast guys that make plays downfield. They have a bunch of big, fast guys that block, and that has to go hand in hand to be successful.
I'd like to begin winding this down. Any other questions on the phone?
Just real quick for me, Dave. Mark, about Levi's, having played there before, the whole venue, been there, does that help at all just in terms of familiarity maybe?
Yes. No, we'll find out. It's a different opponent, different time of the year, but I'm certain. Yeah, certainly. I guess you do something a second time. You know where the bathroom is. You know where this is. You know where that is a little bit more efficiently. So that's vital. Andrew will know where that is in the press room.
Warren?
On that note, Warren.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the school of thought that it's tough to beat the same team twice in a single season. Do you buy into that? You alluded to the fact that they know what you're going to do, you know what they're going to do, but is it more difficult to beat a team twice in the same season?
I'm for it in this case, but I don't. Who knows? That deal. The thing about college football, again, it's a different team almost on a weekly basis, like we were talking about earlier. Our team's different, their team's different. Some of the just the bullet points of your program are going to be the same, and some of the things that you believe in are going to be the same, but it's going to be different week to week, and so it'll be a unique game. Somebody will do something early that changes the dynamic of the game, and you go from there.
Anything else? Andrew?
On
last time.
No. On punt returns last night, what happened with Charles on those couple that he didn't play, I guess, as well as he could have, and then Johnny comes in? Is that position open for grabs this week, or is that Charles because the body of his work from previously this year?
Well, I think the penalty was absolutely warranted. There's some other things that we'll talk about in that area, and then he misplayed the other one, but we believe a ton in those guys and others at that position, and we planned on doing that before the game of playing those guys more on a rotation type basis, just because we knew we were going to use Charles more offensively. Johnny's done a great job in his limited number of punt returns, and so that was part of the plan going in. It wasn't necessarily hey, he misplayed one, get in there.
Back at the Arizona games, was there a common denominator in the last two meetings with them, or were they two totally different incidents?
I think much more so the latter. They other than the common denominator of them being a really good football team, they're really good in every phase, and like I said last night, kind of the coulda, woulda, shoulda was different in both of the previous meetings, and. It's a different game now than it was in the middle of the season. That's the thing about college football. It's so different. Your team is so much different almost on a weekly basis. And certainly this many months literally removed from that game, we're different. They're different. And so it's a, different situation.
Andrew?
John Pelham had brought up that point last night that you guys are different teams in the last 8 weeks. How are you different? And as much as you've seen from Arizona's recent tape, how are they different?
Mm-hmm. They look pretty good. There's a couple guys that were in recently that were out. There's a couple guys that didn't play as much as they did earlier in the season, and obviously that's a similar situation with us. Guys grow and develop into their roles. Guys either aren't healthy or get healthy. There's so many kind of variables to that create the weekly existence. Our guys are in a great place right now mentally and psychologically, and now they'll be excited. We had a workout today, and they did a nice job with what we asked them to do, and they'll be excited to prepare for Arizona.